Hey there, interwebs, and welcome back to How Fascinating. What's the tallest mountain known to man? You might think it's Mount Everest, but that's wrong. I'll tell you right now that I'm going to ask a lot of questions in this video, and Everest is never going to be the right answer. The tallest mountain known to man is about 22 kilometers tall, and it's the central peak of Rhea Silvia, a crater on Vesta in the asteroid belt. Iapetus is a moon in Saturn's rings, and its equatorial ridge contains peaks in excess of 20 kilometers tall. That alone is pretty fascinating, but I know why you're really here. What's the tallest mountain on the planet? That would be Olympus Mons, a dead volcano on Mars. What? I didn't say which planet. Just be glad it's not on Venus. Olympus Mons is nearly 22 kilometers or 70,000 feet tall, roughly 2.5 times Everest's height above sea level, and about as wide across as France. It's about the same height as Vesta's central peak, but due to measuring uncertainties we can't conclusively say which is taller. Okay, what's the tallest mountain on this planet, Earth? It's Mauna Kea in Hawaii, which is 10.2 kilometers or about 33,000 feet tall. If this fact has escaped you until now, that's probably because the first 6 kilometers are underwater. You see, geologists measure the height of a mountain as the vertical distance from its base to its summit, not the elevation above sea level. Even if one were to only count the 4.2 kilometer portion of Mauna Kea's height above sea level, it'd still be taller than Everest, because Everest sits on the Tibetan Plateau. The plateau's average height is around 4.7 kilometers, giving Everest an actual height above base of about 4.1 kilometers. Saying that Everest is taller than Mauna Kea is like saying that a toddler on a stepladder is taller than a full-grown adult waist-deep in a swimming pool. The summit of Haleakala, to which I've been and it's gorgeous, is a mere 3.1 kilometers above sea level, but just like Mauna Kea, it's got another 6 hiding below the waves for a total height of 9.1 kilometers. Even if you've heard of Mauna Kea and the Hawaiian Islands' impressive heights, you probably haven't heard of Pico del Teide. I can say this because I didn't even know about it before I started research for this video, which is a shame considering it's the third tallest mountain on Earth at 7.5 kilometers. It's a volcano on Tenerife in the Canary Islands, the highest point above sea level in the Atlantic, and much like its Pacific counterparts in Hawaii, more than half of its total height is underwater. Let's ignore things for now that are half sunk into the ocean. What's the tallest mountain entirely above sea level? Again, not Everest. That'd be Mount McKinley, or Denali. I call it Mount McKinley because that's what I was taught as a child, and changing now feels awkward and unnecessary. True, it was called Denali first by the Alaska natives, but for those of you who fell asleep in the back row, the natives didn't call it Alaska either. Demanding everyone who knows it as Mount McKinley switch to Denali just feels like irritatingly token political correctness. I don't see why we can't simply have 2 names for official use and let people pick which one they like. If you don't like my perfectly sane solution, I also have a completely crazy solution. We can call it Mount Czolgosz. It'll annoy the McKinley lovers because Leon Czolgosz was his assassin, and it'll annoy the Denali supporters because it's still named after some white guy, and it'll annoy everyone else because it's the hardest name to pronounce of the 3. There, now everyone's unhappy. Are you happy now? Back to geological pedantry. Mount McNally's elevation is just shy of 6.2 kilometers above sea level, but its base to summit height is most commonly quoted as 5.6 kilometers, 1.5 kilometers taller than Everest's. Mount Kilimanjaro is the tallest mountain in Africa, and its elevation is nearly 5.9 kilometers. Its base to summit height is about 4.9, making it roughly 800 meters taller than Everest as well. Enough of this base to summit nonsense. It's clear Everest isn't going to win any of those comparisons, so let's measure from a different starting point. What mountain's summit is the furthest from the center of the Earth? Still not Everest. It's Chimborazo. Here's a different question. What shape is the Earth? If you said sphere, you're wrong. If you said flat, you're wrong and also a moron. If you said Everest, you're wrong and a double moron because 1, that answer doesn't make any sense, and 2, I already told you Everest is never going to be the right answer. The Earth is technically a lumpy oblate spheroid. It's a spheroid because it's round, it's oblate because it's slightly squished at the poles and bulging in the middle, and it's lumpy because it's got mountains and stuff. Mathematically, not a sphere. And now you too can be insufferable at parties and flat Earth conventions. Because the planet bulges at the middle, latitudes closer to the equator are farther from the center than latitudes near the poles. This means that although Chimborazo only reaches an elevation of 6,263 meters above sea level, because it's in Ecuador 1 degree and 28 minutes south of the equator, its summit is 2,163 meters further from the Earth's center than Everest's is. How about this? What's the tallest natural structure to reach the highest elevation? It's the cumulonimbus cloud, or as I like to call it, Anvil of mighty Thor's stormhammer, from whence great sparks of lightning and booming thunder erupt forth as he strikes them with his hammer Mjolnir. Obviously, their tops reach incredible altitudes of 9 to 17 kilometers where the troposphere meets the stratosphere, but they're also just unbelievably tall. Your average cumulonimbus cloud has a height of 8 to 10 kilometers, meaning that if its base were resting at sea level, its peak would still overlook Everest's, and the tallest cumulonimbus clouds are taller than Mauna Kea, Earth's true tallest mountain. They are absolutely enormous. If we're counting clouds and precipitation, I have read that K2, Earth's second highest peak, gets so much snow in winter that its tippy top overtakes Everest, but I find this hard to believe. Everest's summit is more than 230 meters higher, so K2 would need to get not only that much snow, but that much more than Everest. We're talking a quarter-kilometer of snow here, and I'm just not buying it until I can find a reputable source to back up that claim. Aconcagua's base to summit height is less than Mount McNally's, but its elevation above sea level is greater, making it the tallest mountain in the Western Hemisphere, the Southern Hemisphere, and indeed the entire world outside of Asia, and it's one of the famed 7 summits. Now tell me, how many summits make up the 7 summits? The answer is obviously 7, but it's actually 9, choose 7, or maybe 8. If you said Everest, you'd actually be partially correct this time, which is more correct than it would be for any other question so far. In case you don't know, the 7 summits are the highest peaks on each of the 7 continents, but it raises the question of where do you draw the lines between the continents. It's clear that Aconcagua, McNally, Vinson Massif, Kilimanjaro, and yes, Everest, are the highest points in South America, North America, Antarctica, Africa, and Asia, respectively, but how you define Australia and where you delineate Europe and Asia can change what their highest points are. If you limit Australia to its mainland, the highest point is Mount Kosciuszko, but if you include all of Oceania, Puncak Jaya in Indonesia is more than twice the elevation. Some variants actually include both of these mountains to form the 8 summits. Mont Blanc in France is the highest point in Europe as we typically think of it, but Elbrus is higher and located in the Caucasus Mountains, which poorly divide Europe into Asia. If you ask me, Europe is just a large subcontinent of the real continent, Eurasia. If we accept this perfectly obvious fact, it no longer matters where the line is drawn, because Everest dwarfs them both. Really, the 7 summits should probably be Aconcagua, McNally, Vinson Massif, Kilimanjaro, Everest, Puncak Jaya, and Kosciuszko. The 7 second summits are also an interesting topic, but this video's long enough already, so there's a link in the description for further reading. And now for one final bonus question. Who is Mount Everest named after? If you said Mr. Everest, you're still wrong. The British Surveyor General of India, for whom the mountain was named, pronounced his name as George Everest. I told you Everest was never going to be the right answer. Thanks for watching, and have a fascinating day.